before I go to him, we have another breaking update coming in regarding the energy markets. All right, we're learning that the energy markets are on the edge this morning. The Brent Crude has crossed the $107 per barrel mark, but we will give you more information on that. Before that, let's tell you more about the naval blockade that has led to the surge in oil prices, because we're learning that the U.S. enforces blockade on Iran. 38 ships have been turned back by U.S. forces in the last few days. Remember, there is a naval blockade, and that blockade is on the Iranian ports only. That has been imposed by the United States. Now, in the latest, U.S. CENTCOM has said that the naval watch has intensified. The sailors are monitoring the commercial ships belonging to Iran when it comes to the Strait of Hormuz, and they have been barred from entering ports, and pressure is being built on Iran. And in that backdrop, very important to point out what Donald Trump has also said. He has said that the oil infra will fail in the next 3 days if the naval blockade continues. So putting a pressure, pressure on Iran when it comes to this naval blockade. Let's now tell you about the oil prices as well, because this is affecting the oil prices. Energy markets are on the edge this morning. As we told you, the Brent crude prices have crossed the $107 per barrel mark. In the latest, we're learning that the sharp rise is being driven by a diplomatic standoff between the two countries, US and Iran. Talks have stalled. There's uncertainty that is growing around the Strait of Hormuz as well, and markets are now watching the Strait of Hormuz very, very closely. And this is the world's most critical route for the oil shipment. Any disruption in this area can affect the global energy supply, and this is why the prices are moving up sharply. The rally in crude is also raising concern, but inflation and energy costs across the major economies, and that is why this is worrying many of the countries, as well as energy markets are on the edge this morning once again. Let me once again go back to my colleague Mayank on this. Mayank, Brent crude has crossed the $107 per barrel mark once again. Remember, last month it had gone as high as 118 as well, and this sharp rise is being seen being driven by the diplomatic standoff between the two countries. Talks are not happening. There's uncertainty around the Strait of Hormuz as well. There's a naval blockade there imposed by the United States. Give us more details about how the markets really are reacting.
Yeah, what you see is actually, both Iran and US, the way they are functioning in Strait of Hormuz or along the Strait of Hormuz, it has created a complete blockade. To make our viewers understand, we need to make them realize that it was IRGC or it was Iran, which was, because of its geographical location, had been controlling the movement. Regulation and control had been with the Iran. It was only during the ceasefire, which was supposed to end on 22nd of April, that US had brought in its warship for blockade, and it called it as naval blockade. So what you see is actually, once inside the Strait of Hormuz, the control and regulation has been with the Iran, and at the mouth or entry point of the Strait of Hormuz or exit point, it is the control or blockade has been from the US side. So effectively, what you see is actually none of the vessels have been moving from that side. So that's why it is affecting not only the oil things. LNG will also get affected. The fertilizers, which is agricultural products, will also get affected. This is the way the things have been during that. I mean, it is a narrow stretch of water, which is under the largely control of
absolutely,
Iran.
And that is why it is being watched very, very closely, as the markets are also reacting very sharply to this. Stay on with us. Let me go across to Kishore Subramaniam, market expert. Thanks so much for connecting with us, because the crude prices have risen. They are raising concern about the inflation and the energy costs across the major economies. This is a cause of worry, because the energy markets are on the edge once again this morning. Your take on this?
Yeah, the energy prices are going up, and it is really a worrying stuff, because at the end of the day, there is escalation and de-escalation. It's a very blow hot, blow cold situation, and I don't think so that we are near the end, because every time we see that there is a negotiation, it seems to fail, and there seems to be some sort of bombing or the other stuff. So as far as the Strait of Hormuz is concerned, until and unless there is crystal clear clarity, and that's not for the short term, it's not a ceasefire type of thing, until unless we see clarity for a longer term, which is 3 months, 6 months, 1 year, we are not going to have energy prices lowering $80. Ideally, if you look at the production we should be at about $75 to $80 per barrel, but currently we are hovering at 107. And if this continues, my guess is that the Brent crude will further rise by 10 to 20%, and that might impact the global stock market and the Indian stock market. So it's very important to understand that Indian GDP, Indian stock market is going to be primarily reacting to the Brent crude price. And one more thing, there has been a warning that the Indian fuel prices, the local level petrol and diesel prices might go up by 20 rupees. I think that's an exaggerated number. But after these state elections get over, after May 4th, I am anticipating a rise of anywhere between 2 to 5 rupees, and that might again impact the consumer sentiment and the stock market.
Absolutely. So whether it will affect Indians as well is something that remains to be seen. Thank you so much, Mr. Kishore, for bringing us all those details. Let me tell you how the prices have risen in the last 2 months ever since the war has started. Remember, when the war started, it was as low as $72.97 a barrel, and that is a day before the war started. And look at the numbers now. It has gone as high as 107. This is not the highest because earlier this month it has gone as high as 118, 119 is what we are learning so far. So at this point in time, the energy markets are on the edge this morning. The crude has crossed the $107 per barrel mark. The rally crude, in fact, it is raising concern about the inflation and energy across the major economies. And this sharp rise is being driven by a diplomatic standoff between US and Iran. Talks have stalled, and there is uncertainty around the Strait of Hormuz as well. And markets are now closely watching this crucial waterway very, very closely. It is the world's most critical route for the oil shipments.